ever feel like, you're walking around in this cloud of mystery when it comes to air quality? Like, we all know it's important and all, but actually getting accurate information about it
Yeah.
usually means, like, expensive labs and all this complicated equipment. Right.
Right.
But what if there was a way to, like, change that?
You're right. It is a bit of a hidden problem.
Yeah.
We rely on good air quality data for so much, like public health decisions, environmental research, even just knowing like when it's safe to take the dog for a walk or go for a run or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
But for too long, that data has been kind of locked away behind, all this expensive technology.
Yeah, yeah. And that is where NeboAir comes in.
Yeah.
This, like, little startup making some really big claims about their new air quality sensor. They say it can go, like, head-to-head with the industry giants, but at a fraction of the cost. So naturally, we had to dig in and see if they are the real deal or just,
Yeah.
blow and smoke.
And that's what makes this research so compelling, right? Like the potential impact is huge. Imagine if like communities could actually afford to monitor their own air quality.
Yeah, yeah.
Gather data, and actually use that to advocate for change. That's the kind of game changer we're talking about.
Totally, totally. Okay, so let's, like, rewind a bit. What's the story behind NeboAir? How does this, like, tiny company think they can disrupt a field that's, dominated by these, like, well-established players?
Well, it starts with their ambition, right?
Yeah.
Basically, they said, we want lab-grade accuracy, but in a device that doesn't break the bank. And that is no easy feat.
Yeah,
It took them years of research and development, especially since they're up against companies with, like, decades of experience.
Totally, totally. And this isn't just, like, slapping a new label on an old sensor, right? Like, they're actually using a different method to measure air quality.
Exactly.
And that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah. So the gold standard, the super precise method that all the labs use is it's called beta radiation attenuation, and it's complex, it's expensive. Think of it like using lasers to measure a room.
Lasers, huh?
It is.
Yeah.
Intense. Now, NeboAir uses a different approach called optical light scattering. So it's a bit like instead of the lasers, you're using a really, really good tape measure, right? Still accurate, just a different way of doing it.
Okay. I'm starting to see how they're shaking things up here.
Yeah.
But to prove that they're the real deal, they needed to put their sensor through its paces.
Oh, for sure.
And they chose some, like, pretty extreme testing grounds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they were messing around. First up, Siberia. And not just anywhere in Siberia, they chose Krasnoyarsk, known for its brutal winters, sometimes hitting -30 degrees C.
Ouch. That's cold.
Yeah?
I would not want to be caught out there without, like, a serious parka or something. But I guess for an air quality sensor, that's like the ultimate test of durability.
Right. You got it. Yep. They wanted to see how the tech held up under, like, really extreme conditions. But they didn't stop there, right? They also tested it in Karlsruhe, Germany. Completely different climate and pollution situation.
So from the Siberian freeze to a more, shall we say, urban environment.
Yeah.
What was the strategy behind choosing such different locations? Okay, so we've got our contender NeboAir going up against the champs in two very different arenas. Like, on one side you've got the Siberian freeze, and on the other this, like, bustling German city.
Right.
It's like a science experiment on, like, a global scale.
Yeah.
But let's get to the part we're all waiting for, the results.
Yeah.
How did they stack up?
I gotta say, the results were pretty eye-opening.
Okay.
Also, we're talking about a small startup, right?
Yeah.
Competing against, established, expensive technology.
All right.
And they held their own really, really well, actually.
All right. Don't leave us hanging. Give us the numbers.
Yeah.
How close did NeboAir get to that gold standard?
So when you compare NeboAir to the BAM 1020, that laser precise technology we talked about?
Yeah.
They got a correlation score of 0.83.
0.83.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for those of us who haven't, like, geeked out on statistics lately,
sure,
break that down. What does that score actually mean?
Okay, so a correlation score basically tells you how closely two sets of data, like, match up.
Okay.
A perfect score is 1, meaning they're giving you practically identical readings. Right?
Yeah.
So 0.83 means that NeboAir was really, really close to the gold standard, even though it uses a completely different, like, measurement method.
Okay.
To put it in perspective, think of it like this. You've got two people baking a cake, right?
Yeah.
Same cake, same recipe. One uses a fancy stand mixer, all the bells and whistles.
Mm-hmm.
The other just uses a good old-fashioned, like, whisk. The
Okay.
cakes might look slightly different,
Okay.
but they taste remarkably similar.
Okay, got it. Okay, so that's really impressive, especially considering like the price difference, right? We're not
Exactly.
talking about it like a tiny margin here.
No, and there's more. They also compared NeboAir to the Pallas Fides 200, which, like, NeboAir uses optical light scattering, and in that case, the correlation was even higher, 0.91.
Wow. 0.91. That's incredibly close. They must have been pretty psyched about those results.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But it's important to note that, they didn't just stop at the raw data.
Okay.
They took it a step further with something they call their N1 calibration model.
Calibration model. It sounds like they've got like some secret sauce going on behind the scenes.
It's not exactly a secret, but it is pretty clever. Basically, they've developed this statistical model that acts like a fine-tuning system.
Yeah.
Imagine like your smartphone camera automatically adjusting all the settings to get like the best photo possible.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening here, right? They're using sophisticated algorithms to like analyze the data and make the readings even more accurate.
Okay, so walk us through this. Like, how does it actually work?
Sure.
Are they factoring in like weather conditions, time of day, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you got it. They're taking into account all sorts of factors that can influence sensor readings.
Okay.
Temperature, humidity, even just like the unique characteristics of that NeboAir device itself.
Huh.
So they're looking at averages, smoothing out any like blips, and using trends to understand, the bigger picture.
So this isn't like some one-size-fits-all model or anything. It's specifically designed for NeboAir.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what makes it so effective. It's tailor-made for their sensor and how it interacts with the environment. You can't just copy and paste this onto any air quality sensor and expect the same results.
So we've got this like tiny sensor that can hold its own against,
Yeah.
big leaguers, right?
Right.
Thanks to some like clever engineering and a bit of that statistical magic.
Mm-hmm.
But let's zoom out for a second here.
Sure.
What does this all actually mean? Like, why should we be excited about this?
Well, I think that's the big question, isn't it? It's about more than just, accurate data points. It's about what we can do with that information.
Okay, paint me a picture here.
Right.
What does a world with like, widely accessible, accurate air quality data actually look like?
Well, imagine this, right?
Okay.
A neighborhood group, they're concerned about, maybe pollution coming from a factory nearby.
Yeah.
With NeboAir, they can gather their own, like, hyper-local data, see the pollution spikes in real time, right?
Yeah.
And take that evidence to the authorities.
Right.
That kind of citizen action, when it's backed by hard data, that can lead to real change. Maybe even stricter regulations that protect the entire community's, their health.
Wow, that's really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's giving people the tools to actually understand
Yeah.
and advocate for their own environments,
Exactly. And it's not just about holding polluters accountable. This kind of data revolutionizes research too.
Yeah.
Scientists can create these really dense sensor networks,
Okay.
even in really remote areas, right? To study the impact of like wildfires, track pollution patterns, even monitor how climate change affects air quality, like in real time.
It's like going from like this blurry old map to a high definition, like, satellite image.
Totally.
But for the air we breathe.
Exactly. And that kind of detail, that's invaluable. Think about, urban planners using this data to design greener cities,
Okay.
Thinking about where they're putting parks, where they're putting buildings to actually mitigate like pollution hotspots, or even just like, doctors being able to advise their patients with like respiratory conditions, right?
Right.
On the best times to go outside based on like, real-time air quality in their area.
It's really amazing to think that something like, as small and as affordable as this NeboAir sensor is, could have like, such a ripple effect across like so many different fields.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the most exciting part is we're just at the beginning.
Really?
Remember that N1 calibration model we talked about?
Yeah.
NeboAir is already hard at work on the next iteration, the N2.
And two, sounds like they're taking this to like a whole nother level.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I find so intriguing, right? What will this next generation of calibration be able to do?
Right.
How will, like, testing in even more diverse environments,
Yeah.
refine its accuracy and, even expand its applications even further? Those are the questions that, like, I'm most curious to see answered.
Yeah. It's like they've opened a door to this, like, to a whole new world of possibilities.
Yeah.
More accurate data, more accessible technology, and ultimately, like,
Right.
a healthier planet. And it all started with this, like, this really simple question.
Yeah.
What if we could make air quality monitoring available to everyone?
That's the power of innovation, right?
Yeah.
And who knows, like, what other breakthroughs are just around the corner, that were inspired by this one small sensor that has the potential to make such a big impact.
It definitely gives us all a lot to, like,
Yeah,
think about, and even more to like look forward to.
for sure.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.